My name is Alan Bernstein. I'm the president of the Bernstein Society. Good morning. Greetings to all of my friends and family from Bernstein, and to all of you kindred spirits who remember, understand, and appreciate the historical significance of the horrifically tragic events that befell our ancestors. Thanks so much for coming and being here for us. And what a time it is for us to be meeting here to remember those lost, how it happened, and to celebrate what we all together over the generations have accomplished and contributed to our families, our communities, and the world. As we face increasing hate and anti-Semitism and gross violations of human rights all over, here we are gathering to honor those lost 100 years ago under just those type of political and social circumstances. Sadly, there's an alarming increase in the worldwide trend of hate crimes, organizations dedicated to anti-Semitism, and other forms of aberrant, inhuman behaviors. I think because of what we and our families have experienced, we have a responsibility to shine a light on what was our past and should not be ours or anyone else's future. However, current generations have become detached from the meaning of the Yizkor book. As I see it, the message is, nothing like this should ever happen to human beings anywhere. We need to find a way to educate and bring people together, declaring that this type of atrocity must never happen again and should not be happening now. The blood of my forebears is in the ground at Bernstein, and when I think about it, I find it chilling, and something that I am compelled to act against. So I stand here asking you to join us so we might have the prospect of doing something special. If we can stick together, we may be able to do much. Working together is our bond, as was the process in writing the Yizkor book was to our forebears. We must continue the spirit of remembrance. What was accomplished with the Yizkor book was an act of faith about contributing to something bigger than oneself and enriching the community. How lucky we are to have that record of what was, and now, even more important, is for us to concern ourselves with what must be. We have goals before us to increase the involvement in the organization. As we have gathered new participants recently, it is now a time for us to formalize things, elect trustees and officers, and commit to having regular meetings and an agenda that looks to a sustainable future for the society. We have before you a list of candidates for offices. Please look this over, and if you are a Bernsteiner, please indicate your choices, sign the form, and leave it at the desk. If you would like to be part of this effort, please don't hesitate to write yourself in for an office or a committee as listed on the back of your ballot form. Our goals should flow from what we've already accomplished, but priorities need to be established and partialized into achievable tasks that can be undertaken by individuals or people working together on committees. I think it would be great to have a strategic planning process that would embrace our accomplishments and focus on things that need attention, but have lacked the people power to accomplish. One major item in this category is the restoration of the Staten Island Baron Hirsch cemetery plots. Another goal is to strengthen our outreach efforts. Now, I hope I get this right, okay? There we go. There are a number of people who have become reconnected to their heritage through our efforts. I personally have connected with several long-lost cousins, and I know there are many among you that have had a similar experience. It is amazing to me how many people, for so many different reasons, are disconnected to their roots, whether by choice, circumstances, ignorance, apathy, or antipathy. It is startling to find out how so few truly understand how they got where they are. Fortunately, we, as one of the strongest groups of Landslide, have managed to maintain a strong focus on our history and heritage. Also, fortunately, our forebears had the wisdom and courage to understand the importance of preserving the record of their experiences for future generations to understand. It is with deep gratitude for my dear grandmother, Rose Huberman, who in her wisdom insisted that I understand and I appreciate the place from which she came and the stories that she brought with her. It is the resilience, the fortitude, the essential creativity, the intelligence, and so many other wonderful things that have been passed down in so many ways, spoken and unspoken. I am grateful to all those who work to preserve this legacy. Okay, and I recently, is Fern Gutman here? Fern, stand up. So this is an example of our outreach, and I recently got a note from Fern saying that she is coming here today and that she is connected to a number of different families but hasn't been involved or connected with us for forever. So she bought a ticket, and here she is. And Fern, welcome to Bernstein. Let's give Fern a hand. Let's see. A plan should be developed to build and strengthen our ties to our Ukrainian partners, such as Yuri Fedorov, the principal of the school in Bernstein, and Father Peter Glauca, the parish priest, and Chesed Best, among others. As depicted in these photos and the news video recently circulated, their profound demonstration of commitment to the education and enlightenment of their followers and students was truly one of our crowning achievements. Additionally, Sid Shavitz has been working with Father Peter on developing educational materials that will be written in Ukrainian and distributed to both parishioners and students in Bernstein and the surrounding area. At a recent meeting with the director of Project Kesher, let's see if I can get that slide, there we go. It was thought that this model of interfaith collaboration and community education could serve as a model for towns and cities throughout the Ukraine. These important efforts are nothing short of astounding based on our experience with the town and represent beginnings that should be nurtured. Just a note on the video. There was a video that was passed around. I don't know if people saw it, but it was a news release from a Ukrainian news station that came to, because these pictures are from Bernstein. This was a commemoration that was held by Father Peter and town locals. It was a candlelighting ceremony, a vigil in honor of Bernsteiners. So it was a really wonderful thing, and that's why I'm so eager to think of how we can possibly begin to move this forward. At home, we've had a tremendous amount of success with our outreach to organizations that you can see on the screen. Yes? Okay. We need to continue to nurture these connections with local synagogues and other organizations to support our goals, host memorial activities, and spread the word. This could be just the beginning of what we might be able to develop if we are committed to sustaining the memory of our past. Unfortunately, we will not hear from Yael Danieli today about the intergenerational transmission of trauma. However, this concept represents something of tremendous potential importance to us. The Society maintains communication with hundreds of descendants. There are many things that might be learned from our collective examination of health issues, family relationship trends, and other points of genealogical interest. A plan should include an effort to seriously look at our collective history and attempt to determine what, if any, might be the long-range impact of these events in Felstein on current and future generations. We have this opportunity now. If we don't act on our current state of connectedness, we risk the loss of the possibility of examining the health, psychosocial, and other possible implications of these connections. And I should mention, in our extensive array of family trees that have been collected, are totally amazing and show a tremendous interconnectedness among the families. One of the most amazing family trees I've seen is Bert Brenman's, that is about this long and about this high, and was sent to me by Bert in a rolled up tube, and we have it. Actually, it is on the internet. So, Bert, thanks very much for that. That's wonderful. But I really encourage everybody to try to put their family trees together, and and see if we can possibly find a way of mapping them. Let me get to another slide. And this, before I get into this other topic, I just want to briefly talk about this. This was one of our connections, fortunately through our wonderful consultant, Allison Zivin, was to the Central Synagogue of New York, who did a really touching a memorial event talking about Felstein and talking about the pogroms. Absolutely wonderful. The video clip is it available on the website? I'm not sure if it is. Okay. So it's really wonderful to watch, and that's one of the great things that we were able to accomplish with our outreach efforts. Let me get to the next slide. Okay. We also, Dave Cherson is not here today. Unfortunately, he was tied up with family activities and couldn't make it. But Dave was, whose family hails from Proskurov, was very instrumental in helping us get started with our foundation work. His seed money gave us the opportunity to develop a basic grant proposal. And the grants that we wrote and the appeals that we made in our quest to find institutional support are all potential stepping stones to our future. Much more can be accomplished if we succeed in this endeavor. Regular institutional funding could provide staff, a dedicated office, and other amenities that now come from the uncertain largesse of members. Success in this arena will mean that we develop definable goals and measurable outcomes for our projects. This is an enormous undertaking that I am certain can be achieved if we work together. We have also established a number of contacts with the media. I was interviewed twice on something called Nash Holos Radio, which is a Canadian radio station out of Vancouver, and whose audience is Ukrainian Canadians who have come from Ukraine to live in Canada, Jews who have established communities throughout the country and who support this radio station. So we had 2 interviews there. I was interviewed, I'm afraid to say it at this point, but I was also interviewed by Russian TV. Now, if anybody hears or sees the interview on Russian TV, please give me a call, because they interviewed me on one of the hottest days on earth, and the only place they would do it was in Central Park. I was a little nervous about it, but now that I've been interviewed and we've never seen hide nor hair of the interview or the people that interviewed us, I'm a little concerned. So if anybody sees that running around the internet, please give me a call. I just like to know it's out there. Mr. Mueller agreed with you? This is why I'd like to know if it's out there. Thanks very much. But we've also, interestingly, we just had an article, I know some of you called me about it, that we had an article in the Hadassah News that was very interesting, and that came out of a talk that I gave to a group that we were introduced to by our wonderful volunteer, Florence Lotrowski, who is sitting in the back. Florence, raise your hand, say hello. Okay. Florence got us into do this wonderful presentation in New Jersey. It was very well received, and they wrote an article about us. Our effort to develop oral histories from those of you who are first generation born in the U.S. generated a considerable amount of interest. There are a number of you whose parents were born in Felstein or other similar places who have not participated in this project. I urge you to do so and get your children and grandchildren involved. The stories about your parents' lives, how they raised their families, how they worked and played and laughed and cried, provide invaluable lessons not only for their content, but for the essential substance of what they portray about human grit and resilience. All too often, the pain, the shame, the guilt, and so many other emotional factors stood in the way of our forebears telling their stories. Knowing this, your story should not be lost, and this example of intergenerational legacy of experience must continue, as is so wonderfully represented in our Felstein Yisker book. We have developed a format of questions that reflect the essence of what brings us here today. The resources are available for you to make these oral histories. They're on the web, and I hope that you take me seriously and do your oral history if you haven't. Together, we represent an extraordinary group of people who have accomplished many amazing things. Among us are lawyers, doctors, professors, published authors, successful businessmen, scientists, professionals of all kinds, and so many others who have made inestimable contributions not only to their own families, but also to their communities. Father Peter, the local priest in Felstein, wrote us a note that spoke to the idea of what was lost when the Jews left. He mused about what life in that town would be like now if none of this had ever happened and we were all still be there. In his view, the loss is enormous. It is hard to argue with that perception. Thanks very much for joining us today for our Centennial Memorial Reunion. This has been an epic journey for me and for all those who have assisted in helping us gather to reflect and remember the events and the people who have brought us together. Many thanks go to who have participated. I just want to mention a few names, but first and most specially, I'd like to thank Ruth Levine, whose support was absolutely essential in bringing us all together today. Not only was she very generous financially, but she also opened the door to the Center for Jewish History and provided us with this wonderful space that we could afford to be in, which is fantastic. So Ruth, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. Sarah Beiser. Sarah Beiser is not here? That's surprising. Bert Brenman was very helpful during our entire period, and I've spoke to Bert on any number of occasions. Robin Doyle and Beverly Gersfeld were our first people out there making calls and reminding everybody that the memorial reunion was only 8 months away. Aren't you going to buy your ticket? Susan Golden was extremely helpful. Alvin Knott, thank you very much for your help and support. Karen Spinner, is Karen Spinner here? No? Okay, Karen was great. I know she helped with a lot of things. And of course, Mel Werbach deserves a special round of applause for just being an overall great guy, but also somebody who was always willing to listen to me and talk to me and help me manage through the rocky roads that we encountered along the way. So Mel, thank you very much for all your help. Lionel Wolf was very helpful to us and participated in the meeting, and Steve Zweig. Steve, thank you very much for all your assistance and all your support. Appreciate it very much. And of course, a special note of thanks to our, as I said before, our wonderful consultant, Allison Zivin, who was just invaluable, both personally and professionally, in terms of her connections in the community and her willingness to be out there talking in the community to all her friends and bringing people together. Allison, thanks very much for all your efforts. It's okay. It's okay. You could be happy. It's all right. Okay. Okay, we have accomplished much, and yet so much must be done to preserve and continue our culture and heritage. We have a responsibility not only to our families and our people, but to those who continue to bear the brunt of man's inhumanity to man. Thank you very much.